On the day my wife gave birth to Luna White, to prevent me from causing a scene, Lily Lee's father called in 10 bodyguards to guard outside the delivery room. But until the delivery was over, I still did not appear to create any trouble. Lily Lee held my wife's hand and sighed, saying, "Nina Vu, don't worry, we are here, and we absolutely won't let him come near you even a step. Your father even brought people to watch right at the hospital entrance. If he dares to come, we will break his legs." My wife weakly nodded, but still instinctively looked towards the elevator door. However, that place was completely empty. At this moment, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. She couldn't understand it. She was just helping Luna White retain one last drop of blood. Why couldn't I sympathize with her? Looking at the baby crying in the nurse's arms, she smiled contentedly, thinking to herself, if he can visit the baby tomorrow, I won't hold grudges about our previous arguments anymore, and I will agree to let him be the father of my child. But she had no idea that I had just submitted my application to the United Nations. In 7 days, I would renounce my citizenship, become a doctor without borders, and never return here again. The day Nina Vu was discharged from the maternity care center was also the day I had just completed the handover procedures at the hospital. As soon as I stepped to the door of the house, I heard cheerful laughter inside. This baby is so adorable, with big round eyes just like his father. Lily Lee joyfully held the baby in her arms. Meanwhile, Diana Tan brought out a bowl of hot chicken soup from the kitchen. "I made this soup myself. Your body is still very weak. You need to nourish yourself." He sat down by the bed, gently feeding Nina Vu spoonfuls of soup. That warm scene looked just like a real family. To Kevin So held a rattle in his hand, laughing so much he couldn't close his mouth. This baby is really lovable, just like his father. Luckily, he doesn't resemble that cold-faced Zara too. Otherwise, having a doctor father would definitely be very troublesome. My hand, which was gripping the doorknob, suddenly tightened. I suddenly remember the first time I met Kevin So. He had patted my shoulder and said, "Being a doctor is great. Saving lives is the pride of the whole family." He also mentioned that he was a doctor himself years ago. If it weren't for being injured by a patient, he wouldn't have had to retire early. But now, he was saying that doctors didn't deserve a home. I had only studied abroad for a year, yet this house now had completely no place for me anymore. I bowed my head and smiled bitterly. Nina Vu and I had been married for 3 years. She said she believed in not having children, and I understood that having children was like stepping through the door of death, so I had never forced her to give birth. I still remember the day I went abroad to study. She cried red-eyed, saying she couldn't bear to part with me. Clearly, for the past year, we called each other every day to share our lives. Even the colleagues around us often teased us that after 3 years of marriage, we were still like a newly in-love couple. However, a month ago, I had worked hard to get leave to come home. Even though I had to sit on a plane for 8 hours, I didn't complain once. Yet when I hurried home, I found Nina Vu, heavily pregnant, standing next to her first love, Dustin Lang. My thoughts were pulled back to reality by Diana Tan's words. "Zara too. When did you come back? Why are you still standing outside the door?" Hearing him say that, everyone in the room looked towards the door. When Kevin So saw the resignation letter in my hand, his face immediately darkened. "What was I thinking to entrust my daughter to someone like you? What bad luck. Now that you're quitting, are you planning to let these 2 old folks support you? Is there any husband in this world like you?" Lily Lee also chimed in with reproaches. "You can't even handle a stable job like this. Tell me, what else can you do?" Nina Vu is now weak. Both she and the baby need a lot of money. If you don't work, are the 3 of you going to live on the wind from the northwest? Hearing these words, I just found it amusing. Whose wife and child are they? That person should take care of them. Zara too, what are you saying? Don't you have any responsibility? Nina Vu finally couldn't hold back anymore, her eyes red as she shouted at me. Perhaps out of too much agitation, she clutched her chest and coughed violently. 3 years ago, if Diana Tan hadn't saved me from that car accident, I might have died. His parents have both passed away, and now he has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Soon, no one will remember him in this world. Why do you have to target him like this? Do you think I'm that kind of dirty, filthy woman? Diana Tan gently patted her back to help her breathe easier, then turned to me and said, "Zara too, please say less. I know it's all my fault. I promise I won't appear in your lives anymore. But please don't let me affect your marriage. Okay?" I looked at the 4 people in front of me and realized they had all stood on the same side. The more I thought about it, the more I found it ridiculous. It turned out this was a real family. At this moment, Chunina Vu suddenly spoke up. Zara too. My patience has limits. If you continue to target Diana Tan for no reason, then don't come back to this house anymore. If you still want to live with me, then behave properly. Next week at the baby's full month party, I can announce in front of family and friends that you are the baby's father. Next week, I glanced at the baby sleeping soundly in the crib. Next week, I will be leaving for abroad. But before I go, I wouldn't mind leaving them a gift they will never forget. I nodded expressionlessly. All right, after saying that, I didn't care about their reactions, turning around and heading straight into the room to pack my things. When I decided to leave completely, I didn't want to leave any trace of myself here anymore. The cheerful laughter from the living room came through the door, and my hands paused as I folded clothes. Brother Diana Tan, I want my son to take your surname. That way, even if he calls someone else dad in the future, he will always remember that you are his real father. Without needing to see it with my own eyes, I could imagine the tender sincerity on Chunina Vu's face when she said this. Yet my heart had long been so hurt by her that it was torn apart, unable to be mended. I suddenly remembered last month, when I hurried home, holding a special souvenir I bought from abroad for Chunina Vu. But as soon as I reached the door, I saw her and Dustin Lang walking back hand in hand. Unlike Chunina Vu's panicked expression, Diana Tan just looked at me with a puzzled gaze and asked, "Did you come to the wrong house?" I said nothing, just silently stared at Chunina Vu's prominent belly. 6 months, yet my wife was pregnant. No matter how much I tried to deceive myself, I couldn't believe that this child was mine, until Chunina Vu hurriedly blocked in front of Diana Tan, introducing me to him. "This is my husband, Zara, Tuesday." I thought that when he heard that, Diana Tan would be cautious and withdraw. But no, he acted like a true host. "Come in and sit for a while." As we passed each other, he lowered his voice, just enough for the two of us to hear. "I heard you're quite a bit older than me, so I'll call you brother." "I heard you're quite a bit older than me, so I'll call you brother. After all, your wife is pregnant with my child." Rage ignited in my chest. I couldn't hold back anymore and threw a powerful punch straight at his face. I completely lost control. All the longing for Chunina Vu over the years turned into fury. If I had a knife in my hand at that moment, I might have really killed this scum couple. Until the neighbors heard the noise and called the police, we were all taken to the station. But since this was a family matter, the police couldn't intervene much. They could only tell us to go home. As soon as we arrived, Lily Lee's father rushed over, not bothering to ask a single question, only to curse me out. "You come home and cause such a big scene, making the neighbors laugh at us. Have all those years of education been for nothing? You hit someone, and if something happens, don't expect us to let it go." It turned out they had always known about the relationship between Nina Vu and Diana Tan, and they even wholeheartedly supported both of them. It turned out they had always known about the relationship between Nina Vu and Diana Tan, and they even wholeheartedly supported both of them. Yet all this time, I was the only one deceived, lost in confusion and unaware. My throat felt bitter, and my heart ached deeply. Nina Vu trembled as he stepped closer to me, trying to take my hand, speaking softly to persuade me. He said he never intended to betray me. It was just that Diana Tan's health was poor, and the doctor said he might only have 6 months left to live. He couldn't bear the thought of him leaving without having a child. Before this, he had thought about discussing it with me, but since I was abroad, he was afraid I would worry and it would affect my studies, so he planned to wait until I returned to talk about it. If I agreed, we could raise this child together, couldn't we? The topic of childbirth flowed so easily from her lips. I finished packing the last piece of clothing into my suitcase. At that moment, Lily Lee pushed the door open and stepped inside. Upon seeing the suitcase at my feet, a satisfied expression crossed her face. "Being sensible is a good thing. Since you haven't been home, I've let Diana Tan sleep in your room. The study has also been converted into a nursery. Tonight, you can either sleep in a living room or find a hotel." I was truly exhausted and had no strength left to search for a hotel, so I simply nodded, planning to make do for one night on the sofa. But by midnight, I could hear the baby's cries coming from the bedroom. I leaned forward to put on my headphones, but then I heard a frustrated voice. "You better calm the baby down, or it will just keep crying. Aren't I your baby? Taking care of me is enough. A little crying is good for the lungs." I pulled the blanket over my head, trying to ignore those annoying sounds. But as soon as I closed my eyes, the image of Nina Vu confessing her feelings to me for the first time flashed in my mind. Back then, she was so innocent and bright, with only me in her eyes. But that person no longer belonged to me. I drifted in and out of sleep like that throughout the night. The next morning, I took my suitcase and left the house. Later, I went to the administrative office to cancel my household registration and complete the procedures for leaving the country. Since I had documents approved by the government, everything was processed quickly and the staff didn't ask many questions. Just as I was about to leave, a staff member suddenly called me back. She handed me a piece of fruit candy. I wish you achieve what you desire. I smiled at her lightly and left the office. I was preparing to find something to eat when unexpectedly, I ran into Nina Vu, Diana Tan, and Lily Lee's father. Dustin Lang was dressed in an expensive custom-tailored suit, looking vibrant and spirited. Seeing him like this, there was no hint of someone on the brink of death. Brother too, I thought I saw you from afar just now. Yunyan said you couldn't possibly be here. His gaze fell on the recruitment flyer in my hand, and he smiled as if he understood everything. So you're looking for a job? But with your scrawny frame, doing manual labor will only be torturing yourself, won't it? I didn't respond. This flyer was handed to me by a girl on the street. In the freezing weather, seeing her still trying to distribute them, I just casually took one. Noticing my silence as I clutched the paper tightly, Dustin Lang laughed mockingly. Why didn't you say earlier that you were looking for a job? Who knows? I might be able to help. After all, we're family. If you live well, then Yunyan's future will have support, and I can rest easier. My silence seemed like an acknowledgement, and Nina Vu, who initially looked doubtful, immediately changed her expression. She furrowed her brow, her eyes filled with anger as she looked at me. What else is there to introduce? He willingly gave up a good job as a doctor. Now, even if he starves on the street, no one will pity him. Zara too. You truly have no sense of responsibility at all. Do you think this will force me to give up the baby? I looked at that once familiar face, now feeling incredibly distant. I remembered when we first got married. Caught in the internal struggles of the hospital, my position was affected, and I considered quitting to change fields. At that time, Nina Vu just held me, gently patted my back, and whispered in my ear, "Marriage is a unity. No matter what you decide, I will support you. So what if you quit? I believe that a gem like you will never be buried. Darling, I will always be by your side." But that person who once said she would always be with me now turned a blind eye while another man humiliated me. She had forgotten the words she once said to me, as well as the deep love I had for her. Even Lily Lee's father stood beside her, shaking his head in disappointment, as if I were the most useless person in the world. I must have been blind to think of entrusting my daughter's life to you. Luckily, we are still alive. If we were dead, who knows how you would torment the girl. The two of them became increasingly outrageous, attracting the attention of passers-by, who all stopped to look at us. My hands clenched into fists, ready to speak up, when Dustin Lang suddenly stepped forward. "We're preparing to take family photos. Brother Zara, why don't you join us? After all, you need to take care of Nina Vu and the baby in the future. Nina Vu immediately interrupted him, coldly laughing with disdain. Look at his pitiful state. Having him in the frame would only embarrass the whole family. After saying that, she turned and walked straight into the studio, not forgetting to urge Dustin Lang to hurry after her. "Well, we'll go ahead, so we won't disturb you while you look for a job." Dustin Lang patted my shoulder with a knowing look before leaving. Watching their figures gradually disappear, I felt no ripple in my heart. To outsiders, this was indeed a harmonious and happy family. If that was what Nina Vu wanted, then I would let go and wish them well. What was wrong with that? 3 days before I was set to leave, I received a message from the director. He said that the specialist I had contacted earlier had just returned to the country to attend a forum and could help check Kevin So's coronary heart disease. Kevin So's heart had never been healthy. He had even needed emergency care a few years ago. So when I went to study abroad, I had asked my colleagues to gather more materials on similar cases for reference. After all, the bond of many years still existed, and after helping him check his health, I would have no more ties with him. But as soon as I mentioned taking him for a checkup, Kevin So's face immediately darkened. Why would I go to the hospital when I'm perfectly healthy? You brat, do you want to jinx me? My previous coronary artery bypass surgery was clearly successful. What else is there to check? There's a top cardiovascular specialist in the country today. You could take the opportunity to get checked. It's good to prevent illness. But before I could finish my sentence, Kevin so angrily threw a glass of water at me. You sure know how to talk pretty. The top specialist you mention isn't someone you can just meet whenever you want. A jobless person like you can't even make an appointment. You're just blowing hot air. Look at Dustin Lang. He stayed up all night just to get an appointment for me. Where were you then? Where were you then? He continuously compared me to Dustin Lang. His attitude made everything clear. No matter what I did, it was wrong. No matter how hard I tried, I could never measure up to Dustin Lang. Realizing this, I could only smile bitterly. If you don't want to go, then fine. Just consider me meddling and bringing shame upon myself. Soon, the day of the baby's 1-month celebration arrived. I deliberately arrived late. As I stepped into the banquet hall, it was already packed with relatives and friends, even feeling more formal than my wedding with Nina Vu. Right at the entrance of the banquet, a family photo of 5 was prominently displayed, while I was nothing but a joke from start to finish. As soon as they saw me appear, the relatives immediately began to whisper, and I could guess what they were saying without needing to hear. As soon as they saw me appear, the relatives immediately began to whisper, and I could guess what they were saying without needing to hear. Before long, an aunt rushed over, grabbed my hand, and warmly asked, Zara, when did you come back? Why didn't Nina mention anything? I heard you returned from studying abroad and are about to be promoted to the official head of the department at Zhongsun Hospital. Your future looks bright. I didn't respond, merely nodding slightly as a courtesy, but I could see their eyes filled with pity, so obvious that it couldn't be hidden. After all, I was not in that family photo, and the person always by Nina Vu's side of the banquet was not me. A busybody pointed to a distance where a man was attentively preparing dessert for Nina Vu and asked, Zara too. Who is that man? I've never heard that your family has a younger brother. I chuckled lightly. Nina Vu's new husband. Those around us were all ears, and the group of aunts immediately widened their eyes, then huddled together to gossip. After all, neither Nina Vu nor her family seemed to care. So why should I help them cover it up? Just then, Nina Vu stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand. Thank you all for coming to my son's 1-month celebration. I never thought I would become a mother. I always felt I couldn't fulfill this role well. But the moment I was in the delivery room, hearing my child's first cries, I realized how sacred motherhood truly is. She spoke with deep emotion, as if just one more second would bring her to tears. An aunt standing next to me suddenly shouted, Let the baby's father say a few words. Where's the baby's dad? The atmosphere in the banquet hall instantly became tense, with everyone's eyes darting back and forth between me and Diana Tan. The answer was all too clear, yet this aunt insisted on forcing Nina Vu to admit it herself. I looked directly into Nina Vu's eyes, then slowly stepped onto the stage. Under her startled gaze, I calmly took the microphone from her hand. What do you think you're doing? I warn you not to say anything reckless. If not, I won't let this go. Her eyes flashed with panic as she tightly grabbed my sleeve, whispering a warning. But I still calmly pulled my hand away, not bothering to look at her even once. If you haven't done anything wrong, why fear the devil knocking at your door? At the same time, I spoke in a steady voice. First of all, thank you all for making the long journey to attend today's full-month celebration. Everyone present here has witnessed my child and Nina Vu entering the wedding hall. After getting married, I've always remembered the blessings of everyone. But surely when entering the banquet hall, everyone has seen the family photo hanging right at the entrance. Upon hearing this, Nina Vu's expression immediately changed. She angrily rushed forward, trying to snatch the microphone from my hand. I quickly dodged, gripping the microphone tightly, and continued my speech. Honestly, even I was shocked to see that photo. But what surprised me even more was that after a year of studying abroad, I found out that the wife who had insisted on not wanting children was already 8 months pregnant. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. I cannot swallow this grievance, and I do not want to bear it. Nina Vu, let's get a divorce. I pulled out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago and threw it down at her feet. This was something I had wanted to do since the day I witnessed her entangled with Dustin Lang. Nina Vu's face turned pale. She panicked and reached out to take back the microphone, wanting to control the chaotic atmosphere. But she also wanted to hold on to my arm, wanting to explain something. Zara too. Can't you understand me? Didn't I tell you? As long as you don't bring this up again, the three of us can live well together. The three of us you speak of can include anyone, as long as I'm not there. And I don't want to continue deceiving myself anymore. Sign it. There's nothing left for us to discuss. I wish you happiness. Nina Vu shook her head vigorously. I won't sign. I do not agree to divorce you. Zara too. Don't even think about it. In fact, when I contacted the lawyer to draft the divorce agreement, the lawyer had said that I could request Nina Vu to leave without taking any assets. After all, in this marriage, she had openly given birth to another man's child, which was the clearest evidence of infidelity. But from the investigation, gathering evidence to the court's declaration, everything took too much time. I was about to leave this country. No matter how much money I had, there would be no place to spend it. So I would only take the part of the assets that rightfully belonged to me and entrust the lawyer to donate all the money to the elementary school in a mountainous region after I left. There was nothing left to say between me and Nina Vu. Looking at the chaotic scene before me, I turned to leave. But Nina Vu was unwilling. She handed the baby to her parents and hurried after me. But just a few steps in, Dustin Lang, who had been healthy, suddenly clutched his chest and gasped. Vunin, I feel so uncomfortable. Maybe it was the excitement earlier. I feel like I can't hold on much longer. Dianaton, are you okay? Hang in there. I'll take you to the hospital. She could only watch me leave step by step, thinking that once everything was over, she would find me to clarify things. After all, as long as she didn't sign the divorce papers, the relationship between us would not be severed. Thinking this way, Nina Vu felt a bit relieved. The group hurriedly took Dustin Lang to the hospital. But on the way, Nina Vu's father seemed to have his heart rate quicken due to too much excitement. She was so worried that she almost cried, and after a while, she didn't even know who to take care of first. Just as her father was about to be pushed into the operating room, they happened to encounter the director and a top cardiac specialist. In that moment, Nina Vu didn't have time to think. She rushed to kneel before the director, pleading for him to save her father, as his condition was very critical. There was someone named Dustin Lang who came to register for a checkup with you before. Do you remember? The authoritative specialist stared at Nina Vu for a moment, then hesitated to ask, You are Zara Tu's wife, right? He had previously asked the director to contact me, hoping I could help examine Kevin So for him. At that time, I even saw your picture on his phone and praised him for being filial. But I remember 2 days ago, he told me that he no longer needed an examination. And now here you are. Hearing this, Nina Vu was stunned, looking up with a mix of confusion and shock. They had never believed that I could contact a renowned specialist. They always thought it was all arranged by Dustin Lang. But now they realized they had always misunderstood me. In that moment, Nina Vu didn't know what to say. The director pulled her aside, smiling apologetically and saying, I'm sorry, Ms. Nina, but we have to fly to the U.S. for a conference later, so we can't participate in this surgery. But please rest assured, our medical team is the best in the city, and we will do our utmost to save your father. After saying this, they both left in turn. As for this matter, I only heard the director recount it later. Nina Vu knelt before the hospital's operating room. Beside her was her mother with a face full of regret. Now look what you've done. What did I say before? No matter how shameless Zara Tu is, he can't make a joke out of this. But you didn't believe it. Now, what do you see the consequences? If anything happens to your father, you are the one who is most guilty. The anger made the baby in her arms cry out in fear. She angrily placed the child on a nearby plastic chair. What are you crying about? Always crying. If anyone didn't know, they would think this family gave birth to an ancestor. But at that moment, Nina Vu no longer had the mind to care. She slowly took out her phone, intending to call me. Perhaps now I was the only one who could contact the top specialist for the surgery. However, my phone was unreachable because at that time, I had boarded a flight out of the country. My head rested against the window, watching the scenery outside gradually recede until the powerful thrust lifted the plane high, piercing through the deep blue sky. I realized I was lost in a surreal world, where everything seemed detached from reality. From this moment on, I would no longer hold any nationality. I would dedicate myself to the entire world. After more than 10 hours of flying, my teammates and I landed in a state of exhaustion. The scenery here was completely different from the tranquility of my hometown. War and armed conflict were rampant everywhere. Just a moment's carelessness could cost lives. On the vehicle, our medical team leader introduced the local situation, handing each person a gun. He said, "Saving lives is important, but more important than the mission is your own life." Those words shook me. Unconsciously, I recalled the years I had been married to Nina Vu. Back then, I had considered her everything. Wasn't it true that I had once valued her even more than my own life? Before long, we arrived at our destination. On the muddy road, many wounded soldiers sat scattered, their arms or legs stained with fresh blood. Now I realized this area had just undergone a bombing. Those who were more seriously injured had filled all the operating rooms, and they could only sit temporarily outside on the street. I cast aside all other thoughts and rushed to help them bandage their wounds, but that was just the beginning. The months that followed each experience changed my perspective on the world, and I became increasingly steadfast in the path I had chosen. I had never regretted coming here, nor had I ever regretted becoming a doctor without borders, until one afternoon, a colleague rushed in to say someone was looking for me. I thought it was a patient, and just as I was about to step outside, my colleague added, "It seems to be someone from back home, a girl." My footsteps faltered slightly, and the image of Nina Vu immediately flashed in my mind. Before I could even open my mouth to refuse, she found her way to me. "Zara too, is it really you?" Her eyes were red, and she rushed to hug me tightly. I felt the hot tears falling onto my neck, and it felt a bit awkward, so I quickly pushed her away. I remembered that when I first boarded the plane, my lawyer had sent me a message saying that the divorce case had officially been filed. So why was she making such an effort to come all the way here? "Nina Vu, we are already divorced. You left, and so much has happened in the past month. My father, he has passed away." Her voice choked, her trembling hand gripping the hem of her shirt, as if trying to contain the overwhelming emotions rising within her. I was stunned, not expecting that Nina Vu's father had passed away. "I'm sorry. At that time, my family didn't believe you, thinking you were lying, but the one who truly lied was Diana Ton. He never actually sought out any specialists. Your father's illness just dragged on without anyone to treat it. If we had listened to you back then and sought out that top specialist, perhaps he would still be alive now." At this point, Nina Vu collapsed to the ground, covering her face and crying uncontrollably. I stood frozen in place, feeling a strange mix of emotions. A month here, and every day I witnessed scenes of life and death. I thought I'd become numb to death, but hearing these words from Nina Vu still made my heart ache. After all, from the very beginning, Kevin So had treated me decently. "I'm sorry, Zara Tuesday. I've always been looking for you. I wanted to personally apologize. It was only later that I realized you didn't just quit your job, but wanted to become a doctor without borders. That's why I came all this way to find you. Will you come back with me? This place is too dangerous. I've already lost my father. I can't lose you too." I shook my head. "No, I won't go back. As a doctor without borders, I no longer belong to any country. Where can I go? Only when the war ends and there's no place that needs us anymore can I return home. Until that day comes, anywhere in this world can be my home. I truly know I was wrong. I shouldn't have lied to you, shouldn't have assumed I was right and had that child. Now I'm paying the price. Diana Ton's health is very weak. The doctor says he may only have a few days left. Zara too. How am I supposed to live alone with the child? You once said you would protect me for life." I forcefully pulled my hand away from hers. "We've divorced, Nina Vu. Your future is your own business. I have things to do. This place is very dangerous. You should return home soon." After saying that, I turned and walked toward the camp. "If you don't go back, then I won't either. I'll stay here with you, waiting until you finish everything you want to do, and then we'll go home together." I didn't want to pay attention to her words, silently turning away, but before I could take a few steps, I heard Nina Vu receive a call, seemingly from the hospital back home. "What? Diana Ton is about to die? I will return home immediately. You must wait for me." Just then, 2 bombers suddenly flew across the sky. The familiar roar of engines filled the air, and instinctively, I rushed to push Nina Vu down to the ground. She screamed, "Tuzara 2, are you crazy?" But soon, Her voice was drowned out by the distant sound of explosions. The ground shook violently, dust from the explosion flying everywhere, covering us. I ignored her anger, slowly raised my head to observe the surroundings, and quickly stood up. Nina Vu was clearly stunned, sitting on the ground, unable to react. I turned back to look at her, then pulled her up and moved inside to take cover. I was too accustomed to life-threatening attacks like this, but for her, it was her first experience of the horrors of war. Her lips trembled. Am I going to die here? No. I remained silent for a long time before answering. In a moment, I'll ask the captain to arrange for someone to take you back. Don't come back here again. Nina Vu's face was covered in dust. She gripped her phone tightly, remaining silent. Soon after, the captain found a local who drove an old pickup truck, waving for Nina Vu to get in quickly. Before she left, I quietly slipped 2 bills into the driver's hand, instructing him to ensure she arrived safely at the airport. Even though there were no feelings left between Nina Vu and me, I couldn't just stand by and watch her die here. Nina Vu said nothing, seemingly still lost in the fear from earlier. When I turned back, I caught a glimpse of her hurriedly jumping into the truck. The corners of my mouth lifted slightly, as if I had anticipated her reaction. Soon after, I put this matter behind me. 2 years later, I had the opportunity to return home. By now, I had a deeper and more comprehensive understanding of medicine. This time, my girlfriend accompanied me back. We met on the battlefield, and she had been disfigured while protecting me. I had promised to take care of her for life. After a long time together, I gradually realized my true feelings. I thought perhaps heaven saw me as too lonely and had brought fate before me. This time, I would cherish my love. Upon returning home, the dean via the Central Hospital personally came to the airport to greet me. He looked at me with joy, exclaiming, "You've lost quite a bit of weight and look thinner. It must have been tough out there these past 2 years, right?" Those simple words of concern struck me deeply. I tried to hold back the sting in my nose and open my arms to hug the Dean Vi. But just a few steps later, I saw a familiar figure in the distance. Nina Vu was standing there, holding hand with a boy. I didn't know how she got the information, but she had come to the airport to meet me. In just 2 short years, she had changed a lot. She was no longer radiant and beautiful as before, but instead bore a more mature and weathered look. She didn't approach, and I simply looked at her with an impassive expression. My girlfriend sensed something and took my hand, intertwining our fingers tightly. "Is something wrong? Is it your ex-wife? Do you want to say hello? She seems like she has a lot to say to you." I withdrew my gaze and shook my head slightly. There's nothing to say. From the moment I left that 1-month celebration, there has been no connection between us. We have become strangers with nothing left to discuss. I turned my gaze away and got into the car. The vehicle hadn't gone far when I received a message from Nina Vu. Over the past 2 years, she had always sent me messages, but since I hadn't used my domestic phone number, I had never received them. Just a minute ago, she had sent a message with just 3 words. "I'm sorry." I touched the screen, my finger hesitating for a long time, then decisively blocked her number and deleted the message. I removed the SIM card, broke it in half, and tossed it out the window, as if I were throwing away all the unwanted memories, mistakes, and hurts of the past. Everything gradually faded away, light as dust blown by the wind, leaving only a sense of relief and peace.